Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. And let me just check my audio to make sure you can hear me. Okay, good. Hey, listen, this is, I guess, Political Reactions 35. And this is the Trump meeting with the president of South Africa. And we're going to just kind of focus on the genocide, the so-called genocide part, the death of white South Africans. And like I've said, this video that you're going to see is a reaction video that I did a while ago. It's 31, so you can go back on the channel, see the whole thing. And I'm going to just do a little small piece of it because, of course, I don't agree with this being a genocide. However, that doesn't mean it's not a dangerous situation that needs some kind of remedy for the Afrikaners. But let's just go ahead and get started. And I'll be doing some reactions to this reaction. And then just a little bit, I'm gonna let it play out. And then I have some other videos, try to piece it together all the way up until you see the crosses. And was that fact or fiction? And we'll end it there. And I'll have some commentary. But like, share, and subscribe to my channel. As far as I'm concerned, let me start up front saying I don't have any issue with the white South Africans being granted whatever protections they need in America. I really don't. I mean, with the 20 million people that came in, we got to stop tripping over this little number of people. But without further ado, let's get started. Listen, and listen to this guy, this dude. He's dangerous. Further ado, let's get started. This is like a 19-minute clip. I don't know if I'm gonna show it all, but we're gonna see enough of it. So it'll be interesting. Now listen to this guy closely, what he says.
Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act.
I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm saying to you, we've not called for the killing of white people, at least for now. I can't guarantee the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter, they freak out. It sounds like a genocidal
cry babies.
Because they're being killed. And
yeah, okay, so you hear what he says, right? You know, so if listen, whether he was white or black, if you're the opposite side of this guy and you hear what he says, I know if we're here in America and we saw a white supremacist stand up and say, listen, you know, sometimes we're just going to have to kill these, kill these N-words, right? We're going to feel some kind of way. Now, that's just fact. So here's the thing in reverse. Now, we're going to get into the discussions of how bad these ancestors of these people, they're not even ancestors. Shit, remember, apartheid was only killed like 35 years ago. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, maybe even less, right? Nelson Mandela is inside of our lifetime. So apartheid has been a horrible, the worst horrible racist regime. And it's still fresh in a lot of people's, memory. So here's the president talking about what he sees going on.
yeah, we don't want to see people be killed. Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, we're supposed to have I guess a G20 meeting there or something, but we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of, but it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about.
Listen, folks, there's not a genocide going on in South Africa. There's not. There's violence and there's some people being killed, but nobody's eradicating all the Dutch whites in South Africa. So that's a lie. That's a lie. And it's really lie, and it's really bad for him to say that in the backdrop of what's going on in Palestine. That's a genocide. This is not a genocide. However, it's still violence. And I don't think, see, this is my thing. I don't even think he has to go to these lengths to justify what he's doing. And that's the point. I don't even think he has to go through these lengths to justify what he's doing. Right? It's really, I mean, I don't know why these guys think they got to be crazy. You're a white man. You want to take up for some white folks. And as a black person, I can dig it. I can dig it. So let me stop that right there. So this is my preliminary. Just say that I don't agree with the genocide terminology, and the Republicans can't die on that stupid hill. This is not a genocide. You can't belittle what a genocide is because a few, even if 100 people have died over the last 5 years, it's all horrible. But a genocide is a specific category of destruction and murder, and this ain't it. Okay, so here's the next video of him with a week later or so with the South African president in the White House. Okay, so we're going to switch over to that, which is cool. So we're going to see how that plays out in the White House. And okay, and let's get that going. And this is when he stops the meeting and asks to show what's going on there, and to justify that the fact that it's a dangerous place for the white South Africans. And listen, it really is. You can't lie about that if you're the African leader.
Yeah, sure. Let me see the articles, please, if you would. And turn the lights down. Turn the lights down, and just put this on. It's right behind you, Johan.
Nothing this parliament can do, with or without you. People are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land. Yes. South African occupy land. That's who we are. Honorable member, can withdraw my membership from this useless parliament?
Honorable. Yes, honorable member. Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Shoot to kill. Yamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. Pa, 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 pa. To kill. Yamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer.
The mayor of DA in PE is a white man. So these people, when you want to hit them hard, go after a white man. They feel a terrible pain because you have touched a white man. Not because Mashaba and Soli will not be touched. They will be touched, don't worry. But we are starting with this whiteness. We are cutting the throat of whiteness.
Shoot to kill. Yamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. Pa, pa, pa. Shoot to kill. Yamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. Pa, pa.
Listen, you know what, man? I don't know how the South African president can look at this and say what he says afterwards, because obviously this is the kind of guy who needs to be reined in one way or the other. I mean, in terms of America and the so-called white nationalists who want to eradicate the America of blacks and the small hats and everybody else that they call mongrels. Listen, these guys, I believe, are being monitored, covered, and all kinds of stuff by our Secret Service and all kinds of infiltration and stuff. And what didn't come out of this meeting is what the president is going to do to rein somebody like this in. Because in the backdrop of free speech and censorship, I'm not so sure that here in America that anybody has free reign, and just with thousands, hundreds of thousands of people or stadiums full of people start calling about killing anybody. one race or the other. I haven't seen it. They might do it in their little enclaves in the backwoods when they're shooting and stuff, but I can't remember, you know, and I was back from the Jim Crow days. So this is like some serious stuff. And if you're like the Afrikaners, it's easy for a person who's black to say the chickens are coming home to roost. But remember, they had a truth and reconciliation. They had to embrace Mandela, but the problem was that he was a socialist, and the government has pretty much hasn't done its job. There's lawlessness everywhere, and you just can't replace the iron horrible rule that the Boers had with just lawlessness, because some people weren't trained to be able to run a government or the farms for that matter. So South Africa is really diminished in a lot of ways because of the changeover, right? It's starting to look like pretty much the rest of Africa now. I'm not a guy saying that and much of it is because of the apartheid. If they were sharing power or wealth and education and everything else, then a transition from minority to majority probably would have been much smoother. And all this horrible shit is fresh in people's minds. Your grandmothers and mothers, they're still alive. People remember this shit. So anyway, so let's go ahead and and go ahead and let this guy go. This dude is dangerous, and Afrikaners definitely should be afraid of this guy.
I'm saying you was not called for the killing of white people, at least for now. I can't guarantee the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter, they freak out. It sounds like a genocidal
I'll move a little forward. You know what's going.
Burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000.
So for the rest of the video, we're going to take a look at this so-called burial sites and how this came about. And on my previous video on 31, I saw this and I showed this. And I said, well, from just looking at this, I can't confirm that there's a body under each cross. Not to say that this is symbolic of something, but it has to have independent verification that is a dead Afrikaner under each one. And I wasn't sure of it, but it's still symbolic of death, right?
Of white farmers, and those cars are lined up to pay love on a Sunday morning. Each one of those white things you see is a cross, and there's approximately 1,000 of them. They're all white farmers, the family of white farmers. And those cars aren't driving. They're stopped there to pay respects to their family member who's killed. And it's a terrible sight. I've never seen anything like it. Both sides of the road, you have crosses. Those people were all killed.
Have they told you where that is, Mr. President? No, I'd like to know where that is, because this I've never seen. I don't. Okay.
I mean, it's in South Africa.
The president asked him, where did you see this? Because like South Africa, like you could just go around the corner. I have another video that I'm going to show you to tell you exactly what that road is and where it's at and when it's from.
I need to find out.
All right, so we set the stage, right? We see the radical dude, I forgot his name. They need to rein him in one way, shape, form, or fashion. We've seen the so-called road of death, right? Now, all of this is, it's not really a gotcha moment for the president. The president of South Africa, he had to know that that Trump was going to broach this subject. Now, I wish he was more prepared, and at least to say, you know, what he might do. Now, he brought a couple of South African golfers with him. Elon Musk is in the room, and that kind of stuff. And President Trump is doing all of this really for the white Afrikaners because Elon Musk is his boy. And I think that everybody knows that, you know, even at every level, people men, especially men, we tend to do shit for our boys. Right? So Elon Musk is his boy. The president says, shit, man, I'm going to throw you a bone. You almost destroyed your whole corporation for me. And you know what? This is the least I can do is, you know, maybe save a few of your brothers. That's the long and short of it. And I'm going to go over to the next video where Caroline Levitt gets into it with a reporter. I believe she's Ms. Alcindor, and they get going back and forth on this very subject about the crosses. It's very interesting stuff. Now it's only a minute and 40. It's some serious fireworks.
The president showed a video that he said showed more than 1,000 burial sites of white South Africans that he said were murdered. We know that that was not true and that the video wasn't showing that. So I wonder, why did the president choose to show that? What's not true, Yamiche? It's not true. The video was showing a burial site. It is unsubstantiated that that's the case.
No, it is true that video showed the crosses that represent
what the president claimed.
The video showed images of crosses in South Africa about white farmers who have been killed and politically persecuted because of the color of their skin. And those crosses are representing their lives. Those crosses are representing their lives in the fact that they are now dead and their government did nothing about it. Are you disputing that there's no...
The fact that the video showed what the president claimed it showed, because it did not show that. But even more, what I'm asking you is who at the White House...
it did show that. It showed white crosses representing people who have perished because of racial persecution.
The videos that the president shows, and what protocols are in place when there's unsubstantiated information being put out for the world and world leaders to
Yamiche,
show.
what's unsubstantiated about the video? The video shows crosses that represent the dead bodies of people who were racially persecuted by their government. In fact, the Associated Press, of all places, has a picture of that very monument. And the caption from the Associated Press is, "Each cross marks a white farmer who has been killed in a farm murder." So it is substantiated, not just by that video and the physical evidence that everybody saw on display in the Oval Office, but also by another outlet in this room, the Associated Press. So you should take it up with them if you believe the claim is unsubstantiated. And that's a ridiculous line of questioning.
All right, so let me stop it right there. So now what I'm going to do is offer up an explanation from this guy I found that talks about that so-called burial site and where it came from. And it's called Fact or Fiction about those crosses. What, where, and when of those crosses. And there's some interesting stuff. I didn't know about it, and we're going to let this guy play it out. And now you can choose to believe this guy or not. Now, this guy's not a typical black, right? Under apartheid, he's a Singh, and they had a race. Apartheid was, you know, had shades of color, right? So if you were a black South African, you were lower than an Indian South African. So let's go ahead and see what he has to say.
President Ramaphosa and his delegation from South Africa, who met with our U.S. counterpart, President Donald Trump. The video shown by the White House emphasized a lot of things, including statements made by EFF leader or Commander-in-Chief Julius Malema, as well as former President Jacob Zuma. But the one thing that President Trump touched on was a video that was taken from the sky in a helicopter. And it showed a road and crosses on either side of this road as hundreds, if not thousands of vehicles lined this road.
Those people were all killed.
Have they told you where that is, Mr. President? No, I'd like to know where that is.
Now, that video was taken in September 2020. It was taken on a rural road in the Normandin area, which is in northern KwaZulu-Natal, in an area known as Newcastle. And that video was taken in response to a murder that was committed earlier that week. On August 30th, 2020, Glenn and Vida Rafferty, a progressive...
Now remember the dates, man. He's talking about that picture was from 2020. It's not a recent picture. And I can see why the president doesn't know where that is. The president from South Africa might not know where that is because it could be used out of context like it is right now.
Couple in the Normandie area were murdered at their farm. They were killed along with their dog as intruders entered their home and ransacked their place and stole a number of items and goods before fleeing in Glenn's vehicle. The vehicle was found later abandoned, and 2 years later, subsequently, 3 people were arrested and charged with the murder as well as robbery with aggravating circumstances and sentenced respectively. But that specific protest you saw in the video, right, was a multiracial protest. According to the Institute for Race Relations, who were there on the day of the protest took place the following weekend on September the 5th, the Saturday. And this was in response to people trying to make government aware of the plight of farmers in the country and trying to raise awareness around farm murders. Now, Glenn and Vito were murdered on August 30th on the Sunday. On Wednesday, September 2nd, the former Minister for Police, Becky Cele, together with Fani Masimola, met with the Rafferty family in Normandie. I was there. I was a reporter in KwaZulu-Natal at the time. I attended that meeting that Cele had with the family, as well as an open engagement and dialogue that he had with farmers as well as farm workers in the community. So there was a response from South Africa and the government to that specific incident. Cele saying at the time that there had been about 7 murders within that area in probably a year. And of those 7 murders, they had made basically arrests in every case. So there was attention being given to it.
You only see negative things about farm murders and politicians and everything else on TV. And this is an experience I don't wish on anybody, but our experience has been very positive. The police have been amazing. It's just nice to know that the senseless murder of our friends is being taken seriously.
There's claims that each cross on either side of the road represent people who were murdered in farm attacks. That's not the case. The organizers, who the Institute for Race Relations spoke to at the time, said they were merely just trying to raise awareness. And those crosses were just trying to raise attention as to the plight of farm workers and the dangerous conditions they live in. But our crime stats...
So, see, there goes. Now, you have to choose to believe this guy is telling the truth. It sounds like he has receipts, right? So a multiracial coalition of people trying to commemorate the fact that some people, not only just the farmers, but some of the farm workers were being, deleted, being, off the earth. So he's saying that there was some kind of joint kind of commemoration of the plight of these farmers. And it wasn't just the Afrikaners. Okay, so this doesn't say that the Afrikaners themselves are not in danger. That's why I'm saying to Trump, you don't have to go that far to protect these guys, and because we have room for the Afrikaners. Apparently, we have room for 20 million other people. So, bringing 100 or 50, whoever wants to leave, we shouldn't be going crazy over that because he wants to do a favor for his boy.
Clearly show that there's no white genocide happening in South Africa, and specifically targeting farmers. Last year, in the third quarter of 2024, 12 farm murders were committed in South Africa. And these were...
Let me hold it there so you can look at this. So this, look at it. Just get a chance to glance at it before he moves on.
Farm workers as well. Of those 12, and bearing in mind that 7,000 people were murdered in the third quarter of 2024, only one was a farm owner. The rest were farm workers. The rest were people who lived on small holdings and rural areas that can be considered as farm holdings. It must also be noted.
Let's also not trip. He's not trying to minimize for the sake of minimizing the deaths. He's trying to put it in perspective to all the murders that's taking place down in South Africa.
That President Donald Trump held up a number of articles claiming to show white genocide happening in South Africa. Some of these articles weren't even from South African media or reputable media houses in South Africa. One article we looked at was published from the DRC. It didn't have anything to do with South Africa. South Africa's got a crime problem. We don't have a farm murder problem. And that's the truth. For Eyewitness News, I'm Arun Singh.
To the dramatic scene in the Oval Office today, the tense confrontation, President Trump.
Listen, this was a good tape. I'm gonna have to do some editing because I got a phone call. But anyway, listen, so you want to know what's going on with the South African situation? I pieced together a few things, and now you can see it. Go look at it for yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. R. Payne here, over and out.